I just actually figured this out this year. So the 2 right here, this means the unit. Yeah, I just figured.
But you didn't know that?
Just figured that out.
Yeah, I didn't realize that last year. Last year was a blur. There was so much crazy stuff going on last year that it was just a blur. So this 2 right here, this is the unit. This 1 right here, this is the chapter. And this 1 right here, that is your lesson number. So for those of you who didn't know, like I didn't all of last year.
I figured it out.
That's good. You are smarter than me. Yep. So for those of you who didn't know, which I didn't, and I'm not ashamed. So, okay, so the structure of viruses, 58 to 59. So really short lesson here. I don't have a lot of notes for you guys today, so we're gonna zip through this pretty quick. So the structure of viruses. So first off, viruses, are they life forms? Viruses, are they life forms? Here's the argument for yes, and then I'm gonna have an argument for no. For yes, yes they are. It's because they have proteins. They have proteins, which what is another word for proteins? Those of you who got that one wrong, which was quite a few of you who got that wrong on your science quiz. What were those little dots on the endoplasmic reticulum? The rough ER.
The one
Ribosomes. Ribosomes. Some of you missed that one, which if you did miss that one, I would write it in right now. So ribosomes. Ribosomes are proteins. Those are the little dots on that structure that you got, a lot of you missed, the rough ER. So another argument for why viruses are life forms is because they reproduce. They don't reproduce like humans, so they aren't a eukaryote, they're going to be a prokaryote because they do not have a nucleus.
Why would the virus be like that?
I was just trying to find a funny GIF, and yeah, he's sweating and he's got a little mask on.
Virus.
He's a cute little virus. I know, a lot of the viruses on there, they're kind of scary.
Like a full hazmat suit at Walmart.
So they reproduce, they have proteins. Point number 3, they also mutate. They're going to mutate, so that kind of makes them like a bacteria. A lot of these points are proving that they are a part of the bacteria kingdom, the eukarya bacteria kingdom. And then we have genetic material. So they have genetic material like DNA. They're going to have that DNA. Please stop tapping. So these are the arguments for, yes, a virus is a life form. And when you guys are making your post on Google Classroom, you could use some of these arguments for talking about comparing and contrasting a computer virus, which I all know that you guys know what a computer virus is because you guys use a lot of technology on your day-to-day basis, versus a biological virus. First off, what's a biological virus if you don't know what that really means? Yeah, Aries?
Well, viruses are usually just stuff that get you sick.
Yeah, so a virus is what gets you sick. So the biological part means it pertains to a life form. So humans, it pertains to plants, it pertains to all the things that are a part of the eukarya kingdom. Yeah, Abby. So computer virus would be something that is that's pertaining to technology. So it pertains to a computer, your phone, any type of thing that's non-living that can get a virus. So within the article, it's, please stop talking. Within the article, it's going to talk about when computer viruses started to become a thing. At first, it was just a joke. Computer viruses at first were just something that was a joke. Now it's something that is something that can totally wreck your computer. It can steal all of your information. So all your personal information, it can steal your money, getting your bank information. So all these different things. Yep. So all these different things, computer viruses, they can wreck your computer, and they can even, because it's a person who's hacking your computer, essentially. So that is a little bit about what you're going to be reading about in the article, which I love the article. It's actually, I love how much it pertains to what we're talking about in class and what it's talking about with everything in the world right now. So I'm proud of myself for finding that one. Not to pat myself on the back or anything. All right, so I think I pondered enough on this slide. Okay, viruses, they are not a life form because, I'll move my head. So no, they are not a life form, and this is because they only reproduce and mutate inside a host cell. So the only time they are going to reproduce is inside a host cell. So that's just meaning in any kind of living cell, that's when they are going to reproduce. So they have to be inside an actual cell. So one of our cells, that's when they can attack your cell. So any of your trillions of cells, once that virus attacks it, that's when you can get sick. And does anyone know what mutate means? Mutate. Yeah, Ellen? Multiplying, yes. But also, yeah, William? It's also going to change in some way. Yep. So when you're mutating, it's going to replicate, and it's also going to change in some way. And that's why viruses are bad. Yeah.
Is that kind of how, like, sometimes if you run an extra pair of legs?
That's not necessarily a virus, but it would be a type of mutation. Yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah, Oasis.
Oh yeah, are cells made up of smaller cells?
Cells are the building block of life. That's what we've been going over for like the last 2 weeks. Did you get that one wrong on the test, on the quiz?
I don't know. It's weird
Yeah.
that he's not made of cells.
Yeah.
Like he's
So a virus, that's why it's not considered a life form, is because it is considered its own kingdom in some ways. It's because it's not like a bacteria cell. It's not like a archaea. Yeah. I think I took that one out because I deleted one of my slides because I didn't like it. So the next point, the second point, is viruses, they are not made up of cells. They are not made up of cells. They are not even a cell in themselves. They are a mutation. Bacteria is not a virus. Viruses and bacteria are totally different things.
Yeah, but bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria is like, it can be one single cell or multiple cells. Yep. And then the virus, it resembles its host more than each other. So a virus, once it mutates, it's going to take on a different form or a different, let's say, personality for our understanding. And then once a different virus attacks a different cell, it's going to take on a different form or a different personality. And that's the same thing that's going to happen in a computer virus.
Sometimes that's computer virus and just duplicating so you can't delete it all.
Yeah, yep. Once one virus gets your computer, that's one, I'm going to go off a little bit on how I like Apple products. That's one nice thing about Apple products is they are known for having the best security system for all different types of computers.
I tried to download some hack apps and it always turns into a file. If it turns into a file, it can't do anything.
Interesting. Hey, Evan, what's your question? Evan, what's your question?
Normally just turns into a file.
How rare are they? So have you ever seen a pop-up on a computer? So something that'll just pop up if you didn't even click on it, or any ads that are at the bottom of your computer. If you click on some of those ads that are just showing up on the side of your computer at the very bottom, if you click on one of those, one of them could be a virus because they can also come through emails. They can come through social media.
Apple says they're not secure.
I've seen a couple of apps, they magically disappeared, but then they apparently download to it, so there was two of an Apple, but one of them
Yeah.
was black.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
virus.
I'm not sure. I'm not a computer expert. I'm only comparing computer viruses, and I'm trying to just compare them to what I do know more of, which would be a biological or a virus that you would get inside of a human. Yeah, Iris.
You know, I've heard about computer viruses and the technology with them, they do the best security. They do dance like all cool and
Aries.
Yep.
just by chance.
Yep.
It's not
That happened.
Yep. Okay, so that is the argument for is a virus a life cell? Yes, but also no. So this is why they could have a different be classified as another kingdom.
it's not
I would say that they're not because they don't really fall under any kingdom. You guys can have your own opinion for that. William, are you doing all right? Are you doing all right? You not have your head down. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. I do, but that's my opinion. Okay, so make sure I put this in a good spot. Okay, here's the characteristic of viruses. And this is our last slide of this lesson, since it's such a short lesson. Characteristics of viruses. Characteristics of viruses. First off, they are extremely small. They are microscopic. You cannot see them with your unaided eye, meaning you can't just see them right now in person. If you were looking under a microscope, you could see a virus, or you could see a bacteria cell. You could see a regular animal or plant cell.
Can we expect two viruses?
Could a human?
Yeah.
Two different, yeah.
Particularly measles and
Yeah, you can get, yeah. Yep.
I wonder if one virus is trying to, what if like all your cells are turn that way, what if they look like are coming closer to.
And one thing you guys are going to learn about viruses is that it's always changing, kind of like computer viruses. Everything is always changing, kind of like, was coronavirus really a thing 100 years ago? Maybe, but not really. It has mutated and it has changed over time. So over the next 100 years, we're going to have different viruses that are going to be discovered, just like coronavirus. And same thing with computer viruses. A computer virus, it started out as just a joke or a prank. Now it has, I don't even know all the different types of computer viruses, but it's like Bethy was saying, you can get one from an email, you can get one through social media, you can get it just from clicking on an ad when you are looking on Google. That's why we have our computers here in the computer lab so locked down so you aren't able to get some of those computers infected. Okay, so point number 2, they can only multiply in living cells of bacteria, animals, or plants. So a virus, it's a biological virus. So a virus that's in a living thing, it's only going to be able to multiply if it is in a living cell, meaning a bacteria cell, an animal cell, or any other kind of cell that is living, like a plant cell. So any kind of plant getting sick, that can be from a type of virus. Not necessarily the same type of virus that would affect a human. Evan. I have no idea. You can look that up on your own. I'm trying to become more computer techie, but there's just so much about computers I do not know. That's not where my background is in. Aries, what's your question? Okay, I'll come back to you if you remember. Ian, did you have a question?
My brother works in that.
Yeah, does he work with computers and viruses and stuff like that? Yeah. Yeah, so your brother would be a good person to ask for different things about computer viruses. That'd be cool. Aries, what's your point? Please stop interrupting.
The reason I think they're not is because in the last slide it says they're not made up of cells, which is different than 5 inch of fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, is your face blocked by the words?
No, it's not. I moved it to where it's not blocking any of the words. Okay, third point, it lacks structures that are found in living cells. So what does that mean? So certain structures that are in a living cell, like our animal cell, it's not going to be within a virus. So does a virus have a nucleus? No, it does not. Does it have mitochondria? No, it does not. Does it have proteins? Yes, it has proteins in it. So that is one similarity, but it doesn't have some of these other main structures like a nucleus or mitochondria. And the list goes on. I don't have them all memorized, but I just want you to know that a virus does not have some of the same structures as a living cell. Fourth point, they can remain dormant for years outside of a living cell. So what does that mean? It can remain dormant. Yeah, Madeline. It can live in extreme heat, yep. Or if it's just sitting out on a petri dish. Does anyone know what a petri dish is?
Yeah.
Just a dish that holds some kind of substance that you would usually look under a microscope, or in a lab is where you're going to be working with that. It could remain dormant, or if you think of like a fossil, that's kind of a good comparison. If you think of a fossil, a virus is kind of like that, except if you were to put that virus in some living cell, it would become active again. If you were to put some kind of fossil, put it in some kind of concoction, it's not going to come back to life. Yes, Caleb. Kind of like a bear hibernates, yeah, except the bear is going to be still living during that time. The bear will still, that's what I'm saying, that's where it would be different, is when the virus is dormant, it's not active at all. It's not breathing, it's not doing anything. It's literally like a fossil. Yeah.
Talking about viruses, about them being dormant for years, scientists found the virus of smallpox in ice.
They found in ice?
Yeah, they found ice when they found some smallpox. So
I didn't know that, that's
they're
cool.
afraid smallpox can come back.
Right. Okay, and then my fifth and final point, William, you getting all this written down? Okay. Caleb, you getting this written down? No? Make sure you're getting it written down. So genetic material is inside protein shell. So what does that mean? There is DNA within the proteins of a virus. So with humans, our DNA is usually found inside what structure of a cell? You guys remember? It's usually found within the nucleus. It's usually found within the nucleus. Okay. So that is our characteristics of viruses. Okay. So gonna move on to this little video. So this is telling you a little bit about viruses and how there's different structures of viruses. So here we go. I'm not going to show the whole video. Oh, wow. Okay, so viruses are hard to control. Viruses are hard to control. So first point of why viruses are hard to control is because the mutation rate makes viruses unpredictable. So sometimes a mutation happens really slow. Sometimes it can happen really fast. Sometimes it can change its mutation rate, especially when there are some kind of drug that is involved, like some kind of cure, quote unquote, cure for the drug or for the virus. A disease-causing virus may mutate into a different strain. So that's a little bit about talking about the lactic cycle and lysogenic cycle, how it can mutate into a different type of strain. So this, when it does mutate and when it does change into a different strain, this can make a vaccine not work. This is some of the problems that they're having right now, finding a vaccine that's working for coronavirus. Because it's not easy just making a vaccine, especially when what I've been reading and watching is that the vaccine or the virus is changing all the time. It is mutating. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm not going into that. I'm just talking about viruses. So viruses are hard to control. I think we all know that from our experiences the last 6-ish months. Yeah, Bethy?
So when I was in second grade, my teacher did this thing to explain how viruses work.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he had some we'll put glitter on our hands and go high five and shake people's hands.
That's part of what we're gonna do in the lab, except we're doing it so we're not touching each other. No, glitter's not gonna be involved. No. It'll be different stuff. We're not doing virus tag. We're not doing anything like that. Yeah, that's part of what we're gonna do something like that for our lab on Monday. Yeah, Abby. Keep down, guys. I can't hear Abby. Keep down. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's right here. It's a bone that is very easily broken. Yeah. It's because of the way it's attached to things and how it's shaped. But I'm not going to get into anatomy yet. We're going to get into anatomy in about the spring, and I'm so excited.
What?
Anatomy.
Oh, anatomy.
Anatomy. I love anatomy. That's where I specialize. So that's like your bone structure, your organ systems. Yeah. Yep. We'll talk about food too when we get to there and how it relates to energy. Okay, so that is that slide. So we have methods that are used to replicate. We have methods that are used to replicate. So, yep, so I put this picture in here because I wanted to show how it does mutate. We have regular coronavirus right here. We have type S. Notice how it has a different form. Of course, it doesn't look like this, but this is kind of a general fun idea, even though it's not fun. Type L, here's a different kind of structure or a different type of mutation. It's not necessarily that they're stronger, it's just that it's always changing, so it makes it hard for a vaccine to cure each different type of mutation. And that's one of the problems that's going around with coronavirus. Yes, Evan. All of them. Not these exact ones, but they don't obviously look like this, but they are taking on different types of mutations, especially how it's all across the world right now. Yeah, you'll see. So does anyone know what these little structures are that are coming off? Is it just there for pictures? So those little spiky things that come off of all these, this one doesn't really have it.
Protein spikes.
Yeah, they are protein spikes. So what those do is, and it's actually going to talk about it in one of my videos, is they are things that they essentially puncture a host cell. So it's going to puncture one of your cells, or it can infect it in some way. So that is where the infection points happen, is through these protein spikes. So step one, I didn't even say the steps yet. They penetrate the host cell. That's where the spikes come into place. They take over the cell. They instruct it to make new viral parts. And then they reassemble these parts into new viruses. That's where the mutation comes into play. Yes, you can. So these are the different ways that you're going to see mutation happening and replication.
I'm on number 4.
Okay. Yeah, no one likes having viruses. We're all on the same page on that.
I'm like, you know, our scientists.
I don't know. I'm just talking about the actual virus. Okay. Caleb. No. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Last slide that I have for taking notes. 3 types of viral infections. We have 3 different types of viral infections. Number 1, we are going to inject the genetic material into the cell. You know, I'm speaking we as I am a part of the viruses now. I know.
School is a virus.
Right.
Spreading. School is a virus.
So one of the different types, I'll say that, one of the different types of infections is the injection of that genetic material. So how you saw in that one picture of it injecting the RNA into the host cell, being engulfed by a host cell. So that's where the virus just goes inside of the cell, which you guys saw in one of those videos. And then incorporating its own viral DNA into the host genetic material and hiding in the host DNA. So that's where it starts replicating, it starts giving out different DNA, and that's where the mutations start to come into play. Mm-hmm.
It's out of nowhere, you're trying to like almost
right. They're all bad in their own way. But yeah, I think that third one is definitely its own animal right there. Mm-hmm. We haven't really, I think we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't talked about RNA too much. We're going to be talking about that this month, though, within the coming weeks, when we get into the DNA section of reading. I forget what lesson that was. We've talked about it briefly, but there's like throughout the next few units, we're going to be talking about each of those. We've just gotten to the vague portion. We're going to be diving deeper into all of these different things.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
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 They started to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically a mutated way
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, I need to move on here. Yeah, Jaden, real quick. Yep. Cancer definitely would fall under, it's not exactly the same, but it's the same type of process as the step 3. I don't know. I don't know how each one works. I'm not sure. So here's some different images of what they are going to look like. So a complex one, that one's very common. That's one that's usually going to inject the RNA into the DNA cell. The isohedron, which is that middle one, you're going to see that with a lot of the shapes, and then it's going to have the protein spikes coming off of it. And then the helical one, which is that first one. Those are some different types you're going to be seeing through your text and through forever. Yeah.
The one in the middle, right, we have the D20.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I have one last video, and I think that's it. Yeah, I just have one last video for you guys, and that is it for note taking. I know I went over a little bit, so